Hello, women's wellness community. I am your host, Lucy Coutinho, joined by my lovely co host, Nahal Horn. This is your space where we share out everything women's wellness, self care practices, and we have wonderful guests that are always welcome to share out their expertise and their personal life stories. So let's dive right in. Today, we have our lovely guest, April. April Cole,
Oh,
April Cole, is a passionate storyteller who has dedicated her life to sharing her journey of overcoming challenges and embracing self acceptance. As a self care social media influencer and blogger, April seeks to empower women to embrace their true selves and find joy in every single stage in their lives. With a belief that age is a gift, she inspires others to prioritize self care, pursue new experiences, and cultivate meaningful connections. Welcome,
mm.
April. How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm feeling tired right now, to be honest.
I love the honesty.
My
Yes.
son got married, and that has been a high all year. I love the woman he married, and I've been so looking forward to it. In fact, I told her, I'm ready to marry you if he doesn't do that. So now that I'm coming down off of that, and I just can't seem to get enough sleep.
Oh,
Wow.
what
But
a
anyway, yeah,
huge
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
that sounds like
Congratulations.
stress, but still, it's your body needs to rest after that high.
Exactly, yeah, exactly,
That's
exactly.
exciting, though.
That is exciting. And what a great way to tire yourself out, right? Just doing
Right?
you just feel so love filled, I'm sure.
Oh,
That's so amazing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely,
Oh, that's so
absolutely.
good. Well, congratulations to you and to your
Thank you.
son and his lovely wife. That's always great news to hear.
mhm.
And especially you being a big fan of his wife, right? That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Such a great
Yeah.
story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we'll start with our first question for you. What does aging with intention feel
Mm.
and look like to you?
So for me, actually, for so long, I just didn't have a clue. I mean, I didn't have a really good role model in front of me. So I was trying to just figure it out. And finally, I realized, if you're taking care of your health the best that you can, if you're loving as well as you can, if you're having a life of just giving of yourself, to me, you're aging with intention. I'm thinking about all the time, how can I contribute and add more to the women that are coming up behind me? And how can I be a
Mm.
better support to my boys and their wives and their girlfriends? So when I think of aging with intention, that's what I think of, because I guess I feel I have a lot of lessons I've learned, because I had to learn sort of through, I'd say, the school of hard knocks, as my mother used to say. And so I feel like if anybody's willing to listen to um, the things I've come through, then I feel like that's my intent, and it's being received. And so to me, that's what it's all about, is giving back.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
so what was the main inspiration behind the work that you do, helping women prioritize their self-care at any age?
So just like the way I came up, it just was very different. My mother was a very disconnected from herself, and I can think of a lot of reasons to praise her now, because I realized that she had a lot of like necessary struggles that I didn't have to think about. I think when you're older, you're wiser, you look back and go, "Wow, I was really hard on her."
Mm.
But she was a civil rights baby out of Memphis, Tennessee. And she married my dad, who was a civil rights guy, but he was out of California. And if you know history, very different experiences, right?
Oh, yeah.
Memphis is where civil rights was founded, the Ruby Bridges, that's her generation. So she struggled with a lot of things that I didn't understand. And so, and then it's emotional. So, later my parents got us into a cult, because they were trying to raise us a certain way, and that ended up being a nightmare. And so when I think about the lack of resources, I can see why maybe they stumbled into things they shouldn't have, but then it impacted us in a really bad way which then impacted our relationship. And even though at the end of her life, she died young, she was 51. And at the end of her life, she made apologies, made amends. And I'm so glad that she did and that she reached out and tried to make things right. I was very indifferent. But looking back now, I say, boy, I'm so glad when she called, I did call back, that I did, even though I just, we hear all this, sort of the thing is now, cut the mom off or cut the dad off. But then when
Yeah.
you know their story, if you get to know their story, you have a lot of compassion.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's what sort of got me thinking about how can I contribute to future generations sharing my lessons so that they don't look back at their life with regret, because there's always stories we don't understand. And I was fortunate with my kids that they've liked my whole process, right? They've understood my whole process and they think I'm pretty amazing. But that's because I learned from my mother and I needed her to get those lessons, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it all came from, is from my family history.
Oh my gosh, I was getting emotional listening to that. I'm just imagining how similar so many of us women feel about our own mothers because we
Yeah.
don't think about their backstories, right?
Yeah.
And you just saying that, oh my gosh, it brings so many things up to the surface.
Yeah.
Um, but seeing you, I feel like you're such a beacon of light for women that are coming like behind you and who need to hear these words,
I'm
to
really
know it's
fortunate, really.
okay.
And I appreciate like Lucy and the other women in your circle who've opened up an opportunity for me to share, because my story is kind of weird. It really is. It's just a strange one. But when I think about my mom and how hard she was on me,
Mm.
a lot of it was even jealousy, to be honest. I've always been kind of a free spirit, do your own thing. And I think she wanted that. And she told me up on her deathbed, I I'm really sorry. There are things that you're doing that I just wish I would have been brave enough to do. And at that time I was just like, whatever, a lot of attitude.
Yeah.
But now at 60 myself, I'm looking at that going, how hard was that for her to say that to me? And then on her deathbed, not be able to go back and fix any of it,
Mm.
and have died short of her dreams, right? She had dreams of her own that never were
Of
fulfilled.
course,
So,
of course.
yeah.
Did she have you young?
Yes, she did. Let's see, I am 60. My dad is like 84. So 24, 23. Yeah,
Right.
they were very young.
They were young, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's such a heartfelt story, right? That resonates with so many of us.
Yeah.
And it takes so much wisdom for you to have picked up that phone call. I love that. I love that you were able to humanize her, right?
Yeah.
To be
That's
able to
it right
look at,
there. Hmm.
yeah, to look at, because for a long time, I didn't look at my mom as a human person with her own story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
She was my mom, and it took me becoming a mom and really going through my own life experiences to say, wow, my mom was human this whole time, and
Yeah.
she's not a superhuman, and she deserves grace, and just meeting her where she is. And that helped me to cultivate and build a better, healthier relationship with her, is when I can look at her as a full human being. And
And I have
so
to
the
give
fact
my
that you did
sister
that.
credit, my little sister. I have many stories, and I am second in 14 births. So there
Oh
are
my gosh.
11 of us living. But my little sister Sarah, she reached out to me the day before my mom's death, not knowing that, but she was like, "April, Mom is trying to reach you." And Sarah's the middle child, so she's the one who's always trying to keep us all
Maker.
connected. That's her way out. So I'm glad I just didn't roll my eyes and go, "Whatevs." But I
Yeah.
did pick up the phone and I called her, and my mom says, it was. I think about it now and it makes me emotional. She says, "April, I'm so glad you called. I just wanted to let you know I loved you. I may not be here when you get back, so I want to make sure you know that I love you." And that was that was what she said. And I said, "Okay."
Mm.
And then she died the next day. So
Ooh.
talk about what that could have been had I not followed up with that. I mean, the regret I would have had. So she made sure she closed the loop so that I felt like a whole person. And when I tell you that I was sick for weeks after that, just at the loss of her, but not really losing her, but the loss she had of the life that she never had, right? I really began to process then, and I was not quite 30 yet. So it was like, wow, what just happened? My mom just left Earth way earlier than she wanted to and never got a chance to fulfill the dream, one dream, because of all of the things going on in her, because of the time in which she was born. That wasn't her fault, you know?
No.
Yeah, so.
Wow, that is so powerful. Ooh, okay. I have to shake that one off. Thank you so much for sharing. That brings me to our next question. What have you been able, like, what are some of your greatest lessons in your 20s, 30s, and 40s? And in that order.
So in my 20s, that was the decade of insecurities and mistakes
Mhm.
and bad relationships and
Mm.
no sense of myself. So imagine, I'm a normal woman. We do these normal things, but imagine if you're religiously hung up too, because you've got this cult and you're trying to shed things. So you're confused. Am I supposed to be involved in a church thing? Am I not? So there was just so much of me that I was just giving away for nothing. Anybody who wanted it, the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how I felt about myself. When a cult, it really messes up your brain. Religion used the wrong way can just be
Mm.
awful. So my 20s was a real struggle just to find sense of self. And I even married the first time thinking I still had a fairy tale mentality, like someone will save me, you know. And then my 30s was about what the F? I have to save me.
Yeah.
Nobody's saving me.
Nobody's
So
coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I had to struggle with that marriage that was really tough. And because I married for the wrong reasons
Mm.
to a guy that I loved the best way I knew how. But how can you love another human that you don't love yourself, right? So
Mhm.
the 30s was a time of me recognizing I got to figure me out, but not really realizing that I had to own everything. Like, you may have come from a really rough upbringing, but at some point you have to say, they can't fix it. I have to fix it now. It's mine and I can't pass it on to my kids, right?
Oh,
So my
yes.
30s was that discovery. And then my 40s was, damn it, I'm doing it. Bye, husband. I'm going to be single. I need to be alone. I need to date in the real world to know what that feels like. I need to reject people. They need to reject me. I have to experience this. What is it? Why do I want a relationship? Do I need a relationship? All those things. So I lived with the guy for a while that I thought I loved, and then I realized later, way too controlling, really another version of my ex-husband. I mean, I really felt like those were really the 40s were my learning years, where I think a
Mhm.
lot of people maybe in their 30s and 20s, but that was where I realized this is my life to screw up or to
Mhm.
make it. So I'm going to give myself permission to really screw some things up.
Mm.
And so in my 40s, I did that. And by the time I turned 50, I was looking at the guy I was with thinking, we've been together 7 years, which I can't believe I did that. But it's funny because I chose to do that, even though he didn't have all the pieces I needed. And then I looked at it around 50 and went, I've got to go. And I got myself in a real entanglement that we don't have time to discuss today. But it's kind of embarrassing, but it's my story. And I had to get out of this whole entanglement. And then it was, okay, I am homeless.
Mm.
So I called another baby sister up. That's a good thing to be the oldest. And I said to her secretly, listen, I'm not real proud of where I'm at right now. I don't have a place to live. And she says, hey, I got an apartment. I'm with my guy, but I always keep a place, girl. I always do. And she's like, she was in her 30s at the time, wise woman. She goes, I always keep a place on the side, okay? So I stayed in her place rent free to get on my feet. And so that was in my 50s. So for me, by the time I was 59, I was like, woo, I figured it out. So yeah, those were my lessons. 30, 40, 50s, yeah.
Wow, that's so when you say you figured it out, can you tell us what that is? Like, what's figuring it out?
For me, figuring it out is that it's my life.
Wow.
And they're my mistakes to own,
Mm.
and I'm not going to look back with regret. What can I gather from all that's happened to me to improve my situation, and they're my stories. And I thought, and I'm going to tell my stories without any shame,
Yeah.
because if people don't want to be in those stories, they shouldn't have screwed with me. Really, that's what to me, when it says you figured it out, you figure it out, that is the key to life. This is your life to do whatever you want with, to screw up, to mess up. And I remember one guy I broke up with, he says, well, he says to me, you have allowed this. And I said to him, you're absolutely right, I have. But it's not happening anymore after today.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You figure it out. Yeah, you're right. I allowed this calming
When you
night.
don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But now that I know, it's okay, and I'm going to share those stories. So people can be uncomfortable with my stories, but to me, they're my stories to tell.
Well, as
Because
long
I
as
live
you're
them.
comfortable with it, right? As long
Yeah,
as and I feel like once you're able to release it, there is no shame, right?
there's no shame.
So
And I
there's
don't
no
shame
shame.
anyone else. I would never, I don't say names,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to me, that is when you know you've gotten somewhere, when you can talk about yourself
Oh
and
yeah.
actually laugh a little bit, like, wow,
Right,
Yeah.
you
right.
know?
Yeah, that's what I was picking up on. Even when you were talking about like your mom, it's like you're neutral. It's like
Yeah,
you've come over the hard emotional part, and now you can see it with fresh eyes, right?
right. That's it right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, what do you know for sure now that you did not know in your 20s? Is there any kind of like one chunk of knowledge or something that you experienced that you know now that you just had no idea in your 20s?
Well, so one of the things I did in my 40s is I decided that I was going to stop celebrating New Year's, but I was going to celebrate birthday to birthday, and I was going to ask the universe, what is something that I need to work on this year?
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I would literally have a word or a message kind of drop into my spirit or my heart, however you look at that. And I would then not work on myself like I was a project, but be very aware of how this thing was manifesting in my life, and then go about making adjustments. So, what I know for sure is that if you decide that you're going to be open and have an outlook that says, I'm going to be okay, that you will be okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
Mhm.
It's almost like an affirmation, like you're affirming that on your life,
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay. And I love that. Well,
Yeah, one of the things I said was in there was probably a 10-year, I still do it now actually. So that started when I was in my mid 40s. So I'm 60, still doing that. But one of the things I remember one year I said was, I was a little bit heavier. And finally I said, this year I feel like I just want to look in the mirror naked and be really
mm,
good with my body. 100% good. Like, I don't care what a guy tells me about anything. I don't want to hear. I'm only going to believe that I am enough in this skin I'm in, breasts and all, whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'm going to like it. And by the end of the year, I mean, to this day, I feel very good about my body. It's like lines, wrinkles. I mean, I see them. I think, oh, I wish I didn't have that, but I don't dwell on it. I
right.
literally like the shell I'm in. I mean, I'm not going to get another one. I've got,
You're not going to get another one.
yeah,
That
I'm
is
not.
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I love the shell I'm in.
Mhm.
That's what else, That's beautiful. Thank you for that. And so this brings me to this next question. Why is it important for us to prioritize our healing, right? Particularly our childhood trauma, right? Because we all have it, right? There's variations of it, but we all carry and walk with some sort of trauma, childhood trauma, right? Why is it important for us to heal that?
So I was a late menopause person. I didn't even have perimenopause till like my late mid 40s. But I remember I was starting to follow this doctor, and she was kind of the new one on the horizon, beginning to put a voice onto menopause and perimenopause. Nobody talked about it back then.
Mm,
So one of the things she said is, ladies, if you haven't dealt with stuff in your 20s and 30s, I think you've heard me say this, Lucy,
I
it's
did.
going to haunt you during
Yeah.
menopause. And so that would be my message. Whatever you need to do to deal with your trauma, to own it, to laugh about it, to go to that person. I wrote my dad like an 8-page letter. I was doing whatever I could to download my trauma so we could talk about it. I've been in and out of therapy, but I felt like I needed to just tell my dad how I felt. And poor guy, my mom's dead, and here he is trying to deal with these 12 children and all their problems. And I thought, I'm sorry, Dad, but you're here. So
Yeah, you're gonna get everything.
and he showed up at my door. He sure did. Drove, and we talked it through, and we are very close now. But I was determined so that when I finally got to menopause, whatever that looked like, because I didn't know, it was a mystery. We didn't really talk about it a lot. I wanted to know that I wasn't going to deal with a whole lot of symptoms and issues and anxiety. And I had a little season of that, but I haven't had much. Mine's been related mostly to my eating habits. So I feel like there was something that doctor said, she's now probably in her 80s, that resonated with me. Take care of it now so that when you get there, it's not haunting you. Because I'm telling you, anxiety, depression, it just plagues menopausal women.
Yeah.
And you can trace it to things you haven't dealt with. So learn to laugh about it.
That is such great advice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome advice. Like that. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That should be a whole episode right there. I love that. Deal with it like as soon as possible. So that way you're not having to, because I feel like it just floods you I'm kind of at that, I'm not menopausing yet, but I do feel like I am getting there, and it's the flood of emotions and things that are coming up. It's really heavy, and so like you, I'm addressing them as they come now. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Okay, let's go do the work. Let's go. Let's sit with it. Whatever it is that needs to be done. Just being really intentional about that work, because my intention is for the second half of my life to be as happy and as peaceful as I possibly can control it to be. So
absolutely. And that's that intention word again. I mean, really it comes down to saying, okay, this is my life. What do I want to do? How do I want to live my life? Right. I don't care what my backstory is.
Right.
These things really happened. And how do I want to navigate this? Do I want to carry this the rest of my life being angry and frustrated? Right. Or do I want to say, whew, I survived that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, April. This has been so good. So good. I do like to, we like to end each episode with this question. You can get comfortable, breathe, close your eyes, keep them open, whatever works best for you. If you, April, were to write yourself a love letter, how would you begin?
That's pretty easy for me. I thought about that a lot, like, just thinking about all the struggles I had in my 20s. Just identity and sexuality and, being able to be sexual. What does that look like? And feeling shame. And, I didn't enjoy my 20s. And my letter would be just a few simple words. It would be, Dear April, it's going to be okay. That's what it would be, because it ended up being okay because I took on the giant.
Yeah. And doesn't it always work out?
It does, doesn't it? And when we're in it, we forget that it's going to work out.
We do.
Even some of the hardest things. I mean, I watch some young women that I love have gone through things, the loss of children, all that. And you can't tell them in the moment it's going to be okay because it feels so raw at the time.
It does.
But somehow it's okay. I don't know how it works, but the more you work on yourself and you find those places of peace within yourself, it turns out okay. It really does.
It does. I love that. So good. So you show up very beautifully on Instagram in particular. I love following your content. You're just such a beautiful person, April. Thank you for your existence. Thank you for sharing everything that you share and inspiring women everywhere where can our listeners, our viewers also join in the fun?
Well, I have a lot of exciting things going on right now. Some things are bigger than me. And
Mm.
I talk real confident, but to be honest, I don't think you're ever 100% where you need to be without girlfriends, right? They are reminding you all the time, come on, girl, you got this. So I'm in
Mm.
this thing right now where I had a New York agency reach out to me, and they've been looking at my content, and they said, you're not the biggest and the baddest, but we think that you have a message. So
Oh,
I'm doing a pilot with them, a YouTube pilot. It's called Life Over 55. And we start the pilot. I'll be talking about it on my page. It's super, honestly, it's scary because who would have thunk? I came on Instagram to make friends because my youngest son had some mental health issues, and I wanted to see if any other mom was talking about it. At the time, not very many were. And so here I am now in this, what I call the situationship with this agency, and I'm doing a lot of my content that I'm doing is now coming from them. They're actually helping me uh, be a better maybe communicator and talk more off the cuff, which is why I didn't even look at your questions, to be honest. I said I'm just going to talk off the cuff.
Amazing.
yay! You did it so
So
good. This is good practice, right?
Yeah. And I
Wonderful.
thought, and they said to me, we're using Riverside. Have you heard of that? And I go, Lucy doesn't know, but she is preparing me for something.
This is
Isn't that
divine. It's so
right?
divine. This
Isn't
is
it
wow.
divine? I told
It
my husband
is.
this morning, I said, listen, I'm about to do something really divine. I don't think the young lady even knows. Because when
I
I said
had
Riverside,
no
what's that? I
idea.
didn't know what Riverside was. I had not a clue how to use Riverside.
Wow.
So we'll be starting filming for fall. I've signed contract for a year. And if all goes well, it'll be something on YouTube. It's something they're feeling like they need to do more for the older Gen Xers and the boomers. So,
I love
and so
this.
I would say anybody of any age who's interested in the future, what that might look like and what's available for you, it'd be a place to go because we'll be talking about a lot
Yeah.
of different topics. And I
Oh
know personally
yeah.
for me, I love following you all because it reminds me that, okay, stay fresh, girl, stay fresh, right?
Wow.
And so there's a lot of things I glean from you all. Like I don't just have wisdom, I receive wisdom from you. So I need you all to know that.
Thank
Really
you.
do receive wisdom because I think that there's been this chasm with older women and younger women because when I was younger, I had some older women be very hard on me, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't want to be that person.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm now around a lot of older women who are like, we're not being nasty girls. We are going
No.
to be supportive. And so I feel like
Mhm.
we want to foster more of that, right?
Yes.
You know, that I can be quiet and listen to what you have to say because I need to stay fresh. We're in a whole nother time, right?
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very
Yeah.
true. You learn so much from younger people.
Oh, you
Like
Yeah.
you
do.
learn so much from the next generation. So it's to me it's wisdom to be
Absolutely.
able to be receptive and open
Yeah.
to learning and to
Yeah.
information because that's how we
Absolutely.
grow as a people. So I love
hundred.
Absolutely.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
tell
you.
us, what are your handles so
Yes.
they can
Okay,
see
so
the magic?
I have two Instagrams and a Facebook, but I'm really on Instagram more. So I have one, my name, which is April Lynn Cole,
Okay.
and then and I just started that one because it really is more about tips and things like that, things I've used to sort of
Hmm.
bring my life together. And I
Okay.
separated the two, Lucy. I know actually Vanessa was asking me about this. She says, why do you
Oh,
have two?
okay.
Yeah, because, and the other one has become more about the things I love, about pro age. But my
Okay.
other page, it's smaller. I just started a few weeks ago. It really is more about, it just gives tips. And I get women say all the time, oh my God, this is such a good tip. Just things I've done, things I've learned. So yeah,
Love it.
Persnickety is the one you're familiar with. And there's April Lynn Cole is another one.
Okay, I'll look for that one. I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with that one, but that sounds really. I love tips,
Mhm.
especially something to look forward to. Like it's just always helpful to know.
Yeah,
So thank
absolutely.
you. That's brilliant. I love it.
Now I'm gonna
Oh
put this on my phone.
Yeah, definitely. Like, let's. And did you share your Facebook as well? Is it also
Well, I
April?
don't. It's funny. I'm not on Facebook. It's just how Instagram uploads to Facebook, and I do that because any collabs I do, they want me to be on Facebook.
Yeah, just because you have different people everywhere, so it doesn't
Right.
hurt, right? Especially when they're linked. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything; they just link over to
Exactly.
that.
It's
Yeah,
persnickety as well. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, perfect.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
So good. I can talk to you forever. This has been so wonderful. Ah, so special. Thank you for making the time for us. We really do appreciate your
Oh,
presence
you're
on
so welcome.
here.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you,
Thank you.
April.
Yeah.
Thank
Nice.
you. And to our listeners and our viewers, we see you. We appreciate you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for being on this journey with us. Definitely join us on our Women's Wellness Podcast Instagram page. We have, we are we're sprinkling in so many different things lately, and we're so excited to share, and we want you to be a part of it. Until the next time, sending you all so, so much love.
So
Be
much
well.
love.
Thank you.
Bye.